Executive Director of this organization, One Book, One New Orleans. I will do the very fast, what is One Book, One New Orleans, and tell you to see onebookoneNOLA.org for all the things. But basically what we do is we try to break down barriers between books and their readers, and we try to build a community founded on a shared reading experience. We do that by picking one book every year. And when we do that, we have to recognize that approximately 1 in 4 adults in our city struggles to access books and reading materials every single day. So to break down that barrier and really reach the 1 in 4, we develop a curriculum for the book we choose every year. And we give that curriculum free of charge to adult education programs and education programs in both jails and prisons. So it's being used across a wide variety of programs to teach adults and incarcerated juveniles to read. We also get it into the ears of the blind and print handicapped through a partnership with WRVH Reading Radio. We get copies into the New Orleans Public Library. Thank you, Robin Goldblum, for your work on that. So that if you can't access the book at a bookstore, you can go to your local public library and get it for free. And then to bring folks together, we have events like this one in different neighborhoods throughout the city. We also have a very special announcement about a very special partnership coming up at the end. So stay tuned and stay here. Look at me keeping you in the seats until the bitter end. If you want to know more about what we do, I'm here. I can tell you everything that we've done for the past decade, and it would be my pleasure to do so. But that would take up our whole hour. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce these two beautiful people sitting up here, and then I'm going to get out the way. They're going to be in conversation first, and Skye will then end with a reading, and then we'll open it up to you all for some Q&A. All right, so I think I've internalized Lisa Saloy's bio. And the reason I've internalized her bio is because her book, Black Creole Chronicles, was our 2024 selection. So I got to get up and recite her bio a good dozen plus times. This is a couple of years ago. Let's see how well I do 2 years later. Okay. Phone behind my back, y'all. Lisa Saloy is currently the Conrad and Hilton Chair at the English Department at Dillard University. She is the author of 3 books, Red Beans and Rice the Yours, Black Creole Chronicles, and Second Line Home. Most recently, she has edited Hurricanes Katrina and Rita at 20, along with another former Louisiana Poet Laureate, John Warner Smith. John Warner Smith was Poet Laureate from 2019 to 2021, and then she was 2021 to 2023. And whether she is writing or editing or doing a talk like this, Lisa Saloy writes for those who can't tell the stories of Black Creole culture. How'd I do? I'll be able to do that for you by the end of this year. But until then, Skye Jackson was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. Her work has appeared in Rhino, The Southern Review, Palette Poetry, Rattle, and elsewhere. She is an award-winning poet who has also been a finalist for various literary prizes. She is the chairwoman of the New Orleans Poetry Festival and served as the writer-in-residence of the Jack Kerouac House this past summer. Her debut poetry collection, Libre, was published by Regalo Press and distributed by Simon & Schuster. For those of you who don't know what regalo means, it means gift in Spanish, and what a gift this collection is to our community. Without further ado, Lisa Saloy and Skye Jackson.
Well, welcome again, everybody. First of all, let's give another big round of applause for the 2026 One Book, One New Orleans selections, Skye Jackson, for her debut collection, Libre. I'm so proud of you. What Skye does, and I'm going to talk more about that, but you capture what only you could. So let's start in the beginning. You're from here.
Yeah.
So what part of town?
So I grew up, I always say that I grew up in the Ninth Ward, in the East, and Uptown. So kind of my great-grandmother lived in the Ninth Ward, so I was spending a lot of time with her. My mom lived in the East Bank of New Orleans, and then my dad was Uptown. So I was kind of just shuffled between the points.
Wow. Okay, that's a really different geography. So how long in the Ninth Ward versus
gosh.
Uptown?
I mean, my family had lived in the Ninth Ward, since the 50s.
Okay.
My great-grandmother, my mom grew up in the Ninth Ward.
Right.
And then my parents met, of course, and my mom lived in the East in the 80s, 90s, and then my dad was, in Uptown around that time too, late 90s.
All right. And for those of you who don't know why I ask, because the Ninth Ward, before Hurricane Katrina, was the largest neighborhood of black homeowners in the country. Not in the city, not in the state, in the country. So it was a very special place. And lots of community, so much culture, and homeowners. So a very different vibe. And a part of that was because of redlining after World War II, because blacks weren't allowed in other parts of town, which was sad. But it created quite a community and conglomerate of culture. So that's a
Mecca.
Yeah.
And that was something that my family was so proud of, that my great-grandparents owned this house for so many years, and that's why Katrina was such a devastating event, for so many of us.
It still breaks my heart. And that so many people lost their homes because of a lack of understanding of the legality of passing on property.
Yes, it can be a mess.
It has been for a lot of people. I'm so sorry about that. But I'm glad that you have that inheritance. And we feel it.
Thank you.
We feel it at Libre. All right, so before you left, were you writing?
Yes.
And when did you kind of start?
Oh gosh, I started writing poetry at 14 years old at
Oh.
NOCA.
Oh.
Yes, I always wanted to be an artist. I thought I wanted to be a visual artist, and I remember my mom saying to me, "You're a writer," and so
God bless her.
she enrolled me at NOCA. Brad Richard was actually the one who interviewed me for my spot at NOCA.
Oh,
which is,
sweet.
yes, and so I've been writing ever since then. Now the poems that I was writing at 14 were terrible, and I remember
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I remember this kid in my class. One of my poems, on one of my poems and workshop, he wrote, "This is not a poem," and like, and I don't remember that kid's name. I don't remember anything about this kid. I just remember. I wish I still had it and I had it framed, But it was just so funny, The 14-year-old poet drama begins at that point, But that's where I started writing poetry in earnest. Was at NOCA.
That's awesome. And with Brad Richard.
Yes.
What a great way to begin. He's a wonderful educator as well as a wonderful poet.
Yes, we had him maybe a year or two before he left to go to Lusher at the time, and so.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's a great foundation. And your mother had the more than good sense to say you're a writer.
Yes, she told me.
That's priceless.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Well, I'm so proud of her. Is she still living?
Yeah, she's still living.
Okay.
She was gonna try to be here tonight, but
Oh, I hope to meet her.
she would love you.
Oh,
She would love her.
I will love her. And now I'll love her even more.
Yes.
That's awesome. So then, what happened after high school?
High school. So after high school, I started at Loyola, and I was there for a year until it got to be too expensive, and I transferred to LSU and kept writing poetry there. And then after LSU, I went to law school. So I was in law school for 3 years. Then I moved to LA, and I was trying to do entertainment law and all of I had a mentor in law school who had been the vice president of Columbia Pictures, and so he kind of encouraged me to go to LA and do all these things. So I went to LA. I didn't know anyone. I had never been there. And I just hit the ground running. And so I was in LA for several years, and then I felt the call to keep working on my poetry, and I always wanted to go to grad school, so I moved back here. and started at UNL in the creative writing workshop. That's how I made my way back to New Orleans.
What a venture.
It's
So-
been a journey.
Well, lawyers write a lot,
Yes.
but
Nothing that anyone wants to read.
that is quite a switch. That's so, but you made it.
Yes.
You made it. Well, bless your heart. That is very interesting. Thank you. And now I'm going to look at you a different way. Oh, she a lawyer.
I'll take it, you know.
All right. So, what was the graduate school journey for you in
It-
terms of finding? I'm looking for your voice. When did you know
Ooh.
this voice was born?
You know,
Because that's quite a journey.
Yes, I want to say that I first discovered my voice. I think it became a little bit more prominent when I was at LSU. Suddenly, I was sort of breaking out of the mold of the poetry that I had been writing, and then I was like writing poems in law school. I was like in the law school library, like writing poems when I should have been studying with my friends, you know, finals week and things of that sort. And so it's something that's never left me. But what I didn't have after I left LSU, and during my law school years, my LA years, I didn't have community. I didn't have anyone I could send my poetry to you know, to look at it, to read it, to give me feedback. I didn't know what was going on in the poetry world. I was just in LA, just kind of partying and trying to make something happen with my legal career. And so I really felt like I needed to have some sort of community so I could get to the next level, you know? And so I applied to UNL really last minute. I think the deadline was like January, and the deadline was in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, I have to get letters of recommendation and do all these things. So I made it by just the skin of my teeth, literally, this deadline. And when I got to UNL, just really a whole other world just opened for me. I was like, whoa, look at all of the things that people are doing. And, you know, I found community with my classmates and my peers and my teachers. And it just felt like I got welcomed instantly into this family of writers. And I didn't know how much I desperately needed that. But I think that's where I see my literary career have taken, you know, the biggest shift. Was at that point. I had all the poems, but I didn't know what to do with the poems. I was like, what do I do with all of this, you know, the stuff that I've accumulated through the years? And so when I got to UNL, I was really set in the right direction of where I should go next.
Sweet. You and Jericho Brown.
Yes. Yes.
Same thing for him, because he had all this work, and he was constantly, okay, that's good. That's great. Because I just told a student, you need to go to graduate school. You need to understand how this works.
Yes.
One of my, and I want to get to some of your awards, but thank you for that.
Of course.
One of my favorite analogies for young writers is you can't become a prize fighter and not expect to get hit. You have to compete. You have to get back in the ring. You're going to get knocked out, but you have to get up and do it again. So not only are you devoted at submitting your work, you won a lot of prizes, baby. And we'll get to a couple of them. But so, and UNO then helped you with that, with competing.
Yes.
So I love that you went for the top prizes, baby. You didn't just go for every little thing. And you went for prizes. So I love that because there's so many now for writers. And it's a lot easier than typing up and stamping, and, which is how I was raised in the day. But, so I love that. Now, one of the prizes that really moved me, I mean, they all do. Congratulations. But it's this one that former poet laureate Billy Collins selected this poem, and it's one of the things I love about this collection is that you capture what is extremely difficult for Black people to articulate and for many white people to understand, and that's the microaggressions. And oh my God, did you capture those so well. But this one is called Can We Touch Your Hair?
Yes, indeed.
You're gonna have to hear that. And it's included in the Library of Congress Poetry 180 Poet Project. I think that's fabulous. You're there for all of us from here. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And the way you capture those, it still moves me tremendously. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another thing about your work is the little eye.
Mm.
So was that a Nikki Giovanni influence? Oh,
Nikki Giovanni, Lucille Clifton.
Lucille Clifton.
Yes, I wanted to operate in that framework and sort of continue that tradition in Black poetry.
Okay.
The little eye, and for Derricotte, she also does the little eye too. But I kind of wanted to be in this lineage of the Black female poets that I so deeply admired and was so enriched by, and also I just love the way that it looks. I love the little eye, and so yeah, there were a bunch of different motivations behind it.
Okay, but it doesn't diminish the power of it. So certainly before this millennium, the I in Black poetry meant all of us. And I thank you that it still means that. It makes my heart full. But thank you.
You're gonna make me cry.
Well, when I think of it, because some in your generation have abandoned it. And I mean, people can do what they want to do. We're all human beings. Nobody's perfect but God. But we've been through so much to earn our right, and thank you.
It means a lot to be able to write into that lineage, and I have so many people ask me, why do you write with a little I? And I have to sort of explain that, that this is sort of an ancestral legacy that we would do well to remember and to appreciate and to keep pushing forward.
It's a collective I. It's for all of us. We feel it. Thank you. There's another one in that vein. Oh, and congratulations for the writer in residence, Jackie Arroway.
Thank you.
Big stuff, baby.
With the ghost of Jack. That's a whole other story for another day.
Oh. And the other one that appears in the Southern Review in 2023, the white woman who grabbed me in Goodwill last week. That was brave. That was really brave. Y'all have to hear these today.
Now I know what to read.
Well, sorry, I'm being prejudiced.
No.
Because,
no, this is what I needed.
And another one that is one of my favorites, because I like to celebrate, and I stole this from folks speaking on the street. Our hair defies gravity. And so I love this poem that you do when you say, wait, I don't want to get the wrong one. Wait. There's two. One, when the half black man in my bed calls my hair nappy. And the other one, well, of course, when you touch my hair, but there's another one. Wait a minute. There's another one, because when I come across it, I go, oh my God, I gotta read that again. I just gotta read that again.
Is it the women in the woods?
The women in the woods. Yes. So that was very interesting. Was that a tense moment for you?
No, I wanted to write something about my friends and about my friend group. I've been friends with the same people since I was 14, which is kind of, I guess, a typical New Orleans thing. We all went to high school together, all bonded because of Katrina, We just have never left each other's lives.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so I wanted to write a poem that paid homage to them in some way, to our friendship, to the beauty of Black women and the Black women that are in my life. And so I think that poem was a way of being able to do that.
That's priceless. I'm a fan, can you tell?
I'll take it.
Something else. And I love the variety of publications you have. Just so many. Even the London Magazine alone.
Yeah, it's not
She's
on
big
in
stuff, baby. And I guess I wanted to know, about your experience as an educator and a writer. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, I started teaching at Xavier a few years ago. Actually, Rapadamo, who's here, asked me if I would come to Xavier and teach, and that's how I began my journey as an educator. I hadn't really done that before, other than at UNO when I was in grad school for a semester, and then I ran into Ralph at a bookstore. I think it was at Blue Cypress Books, and he told me that his students were reading my poems in his class, and I just said, oh, I would love to come talk to them at Xavier, and one thing sort of led to another, and now I'm teaching there. And so that's really how I became an educator. But it's really important to me because I can count on my hand the number of Black poetry teachers I've had in my life, and so it really meant a lot to me to be at an HBCU and to be teaching students of color and to be nurturing them and guiding them, at such a crucial point in their lives, So sometimes I wish I had that. At LSU, all of my professors were white. I remember turning in a short story and one of my professors saying, oh, this is not universal enough for, people aren't going to be able to identify with what you're, those were the kinds of, the kind of feedback that you would get sometimes as a Black student, being the only Black student in a class full of white people.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and it's very difficult, to have your experiences validated in the world, and I stopped writing short stories after that. That really, yeah, I haven't written a short story. I think I've done flash fiction, but not in the way I used to, because I think that really deeply affected me.
Okay, let's divorce that.
Yeah, I
From
know.
now on.
It's so crazy.
No, not acceptable. No.
I need to get back to it. But I just use that example to how crucial it is to have teachers that believe in you, that can see you, that recognize what you're doing and are encouraging to you, because it can be really damaging if you don't have that.
It's so true. I know they appreciate you.
I appreciate them. It feels like a gift. I'm in class just like, wow, I can't believe that I'm here and I get to do this with y'all. It's wonderful. Coming from a legal background into teaching is just really, such a different world.
Well, now I'm going to have to brag about you about that to my students, because they're still talking about you from the performance you did last year. Yeah. It was very moving to them to see you and to hear you and to know what is possible. So thank you for that. She was our guest at the Tom Dent Literary Showcase. So thank you for
Thank you
that.
for asking me to do it. It was wonderful.
Well, we were honored to have you. Now, another thing, what was the experience of being someplace like Cave Canem?
Oh wow! Oh, that was amazing. So when I lived in New York, Cave Canem, they do regional workshops. And so I said, I'm gonna try to apply and just see if I get in, and I did, and I was so happy. And so I got to the workshop was focused on sonnets, and before that point, I had been really scared to write sonnets, and I was like, I don't know about this, and so I kind of did it to conquer this fear that I had. And I ended up, getting this really amazing community in New York of Black poets who I can always, look to and talk to, and just it's wonderful. It's such a gift. And actually, I saw today, I think that they were awarded a MacArthur. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I just
Excellent.
feel really honored to have been able to do that in New York and be in Cave Canem headquarters and just do readings, and it was just so great.
That's wonderful. Well, a lot of my students have attended and been accepted, but my inquiry here is, I thought the sonnets came out of your technical LSU and UNO experience.
No.
So the Sade sonnets, and so that's interesting.
Yeah,
from Cave Canem.
It all came from that workshop.
Oh, that's very,
Before
because you
it
have a
was
series of sonnets.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Claude McKay will be so thrilled. I know he's smiling on you right now. That's so interesting. Okay, see, I was, you learn when you ask. Okay, so something else I really wanted to know was, what is your process? Now, you don't have to say everything, but one, I kind of know what your writing day is like.
what's going on. I usually like to carve out a bit of time to my writing. So if I have like 15 minutes, I kind of feel like, oh, that's not enough time for me. I need some more time to really think about this, you know. My writing life has really changed. I think since Libre has come out, I've been writing much less. Although I'm trying to get back into, you know, the process of writing. I bought this book of writing prompts, and there's one for every day of the year. And so if I get stuck, or if I'm like, I need to sit down and write today, I open that book and I just do the prompts, and that kind of gets me started. And so so right now I'm kind of in the phase where I'm beginning to start generating new material again. And so I put everything into a Word document, and I'm like, okay, now I can look at everything and start to go through and edit, right? And then hopefully in the next few months I'll start sending things out again after I've done some revisions, workshops, but I kind of have to get back into my routine of writing, editing, sending, writing, editing, sending. Since the book came out, I kind of have just been so focused on it that it had been hard to kind of get myself back into that process.
Yeah, and that takes a commitment too, because that's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Sell the books.
Yes, exactly.
So then, are you a morning writer or an evening
I'm
writer?
definitely a nighttime writer. I mean, ideally, I love to write at night. Late at night, when everyone's asleep and it's just me, I love that. But the morning writing feels good too, but I feel a little bit more spiritually connected to what I'm writing when it's at night. You know, I feel like there's something spooky and magical happening, which I love, and so I typically love to write at night. So yeah.
It's different for everybody.
What about you?
I'm a morning writer, but when I was your age, I was a night writer.
So
I
I'll
think when I
evolve.
was younger, when I was a lot younger, I loved to stay up all night and say, I was up all night, right, with my socks on. But life is extremely demanding, and teaching at an HBCU with a lot of classes, you tend to, slide it, thank you. You tend to have less time, and I spend my time at night grading papers, not doing creative stuff so much, but it's certainly preparing for classes and reading, but I'm a morning writer. And I didn't realize that. It took me a long time to realize that.
Wow. When did you feel like you kind of had to acknowledge that and say, okay, I'm no longer a night writer. I have to give this to the mornings.
I was up before sunlight.
Wow.
I never thought of myself as that, and on a regular basis. And I'd be thinking of something, and I had to get it out before it left my head. Now, back in the day when I was younger, I have a lot of notebooks, and I still have a lot of notebooks, and I have almost 1 million digital notes. I'll write anywhere, anytime that's something, because I know I don't want to forget it.
Yes.
Or a line, or especially if somebody says something beautifully profound that's folkish, I want to steal it immediately. So I do take immediate notes. But the practice of working on the work became so religiously first thing in the morning that I enjoyed it. Because that way, once I got to school, I was happy because I spent some time with myself and with my creative process. So I could give everybody my attention. So for me, that worked.
I love
But
that.
I'll
get
it'll
there.
come to you. Whatever works for you now. I was just curious.
Yes.
So,
No, I think about that. I would love to be one of those people that like wakes up at 5 a.m. and is able to do that. And sometimes I can do it, but it's very rare. I just love to sleep, and I love to stay up all night.
Ain't no shame. And when it's cold, I love to sleep too.
Right.
So I guess the warmer months, I'm more into that.
Yes.
Now that it's cold, I do, and I sleep when it's cold.
Yes.
I make the temperature cold, and then I'll hit the heat. Then I get up.
Yes.
But
Coziness is key.
coziness is key.
Yes.
So is there something you're reading now that's feeding you? Even though you're not writing about it or anything?
Ooh.
Any particular voices that are calling to you?
Yes, I actually have been looking at Ricky Laurentis' book over the Christmas holidays. It's amazing. So that's one of the books that I've been looking at. I kind of cycle through different things. I was reading this book called Didion and Babbitts about Joan Didion and Eve Babbitts because I'm always interested in the writer life or what it means to be, and it's particularly in the 60s when this book takes place, what the writing life was like for women who had to balance, you know, kids and demanding husbands and all of these other things, right? And so I kind of look to certain writers for inspiration and just kind of, I guess, to validate my own. I'm like, oh, okay, what's happening to me is not that weird. They went through this too, right? And so that's one of the books that I've been looking at too. The Conjuring of America by Lindsay Stewart, about, you know, these mythologies about America and the medical system and how it pertains to Black people. So, for instance, Vicks Vapor Rub was actually invented by black enslaved women, right? But then it was taken by the son of the white man who owned the plantation, and he made millions and millions of dollars. And of course, these people have seen none of that money, right? And so this idea of the conjuring of America, this mythology, and what's actually happening underneath the surface of that has been really fascinating. So I've been looking at that book too. So kind of just cycling through different books.
Okay, I love that you do a lot of nonfiction. Yeah. I do a lot of nonfiction.
It feels satisfying, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it feeds our work.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It feeds our sensibility and our understanding of this tumultuous time.
Definitely.
Something else. You've had a residency before. So what is that like? Did that add to your writing life? Was it a first for you? Because not everybody can do that. When you're forced into a new place, it might be beautiful, but is it going to feed your creativity? Are you going to be able to move with it? What was that like for you?
I think it depends. I've done a few different residencies. I think the first one I ever did was at the Key West Literary Seminar. And I was there to really work on Libre, or what would become Libre at the time. And so it was really focused. I knew what I was going there to do. I had an objective, so that was great. But I also wanted to leave room for new experiences that might happen that I could maybe write about. And so I was able to do that as well. So I think the key with the residency is to sort of kind of be focused and know what you want to do when you get there, right? Also, I think that a residency is a great place to rest also. Yeah. So the last one I did at the Jack Kerouac House, I was just coming off of releasing Libre. It had been like a whirlwind spring of me teaching full time and then touring all over the place. And I was exhausted by the time I got to Jack's house. And so I had to spend like a week or two just kind of, you know, staring at a wall and resting and watching TV and reading and eating junk food and just kind of recalibrating, because I knew if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to show up and do the work that I needed to do. And for that residency, I was required to have generated new work, and so time was sort of the essence. It's like, okay, I have to have some poems to show at the end of this, so I kind of had to figure it out.
Very interesting.
So yeah, I guess it just depends on the residency and what's going on in your life at the time of the residency and what you need and what you're hoping to get and wanting to gain. Okay. So yeah, that's how I've always treated them.
Right, another selfish question I have. At what point did you get an agent? I don't know many poets who have agents.
Oh gosh.
Hello. To me, that is extraordinary. So at what point in your career did you know you needed an agent, and how did you do that?
I didn't even know that I needed one. I actually met my agent when I lived in Los Angeles at a party, and we were like at the buffet, and literally all, you know, New Orleanian people meet people isn't at the buffet at the food, right? And so I'm just at this party, and I happen to be sitting next to this woman, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Skye. You know, I see you're a literary agent. What's that all about, you know?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a literary agent." And she said, "Do you write?" I said, "I write poetry." And she was like, "Girl, come back when you got some nonfiction, or you got a novel, or something that can make the dough." And I was like, "I have poems. I've got lots of them if you want any of that." You know, but that's how I first met my agent. Then years went by. I went to grad school. I published a chapbook. The moment she saw this chapbook, you know, online, she's like, "What did you publish? What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's poetry." And she's like, "I'm ordering it right now." And she loved the book. A few more years passed by. I was in New York at the time, and I was doing Kavikanam. I had graduated from UNL. I had this manuscript, and I was just kind of fiddling around with it. And she sent me a message, and she said, "Skye, do you have a poetry manuscript ready to go?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, totally." And she said, "I have a publisher who's interested and wants to acquire a book of poetry. Can I represent you? And we'll send it out. We'll send it out widely." And I said, "Okay, cool. I have nothing to lose. Like, sure.
Awesome.
If you want to do the work for me, I am very happy to have you do that work." So I didn't really get an agent in a conventional way. I don't really know how people get agents in a conventional
Not
way.
like that, generally.
But this
And not even poets, because her spiel to you, that's kind of what we get. Poetry, oh yeah, send me some nonfiction, or
yeah.
when's the memoir or something.
Exactly.
Where's the novel?
Yes, and she has, always tries to get me to write those things, and I've worked on those things too. But it's been really interesting, but I think the best advice I could give to people is never diminish those connections, even though it might seem like nothing is going to come of it. Like we still had a great rapport, we still had a great relationship, even though she was like, "I'm really not interested in you right now," right? Basically. And then years later, suddenly she's knocking on my door like, "Hey, are you still,
That is
you're still available?"
I am so happy for you. That is unusual and wonderful.
I feel like my poetry career has been so strange, so unusual, that it's hard for me to, people ask me for advice, and I'm like, my advice is very specific and strange. So
That's
please
okay.
take from it what you will.
That's okay, you're sailing, baby.
It
That
just
is
hasn't
awesome.
been I always have taken the path less chose. Like, I'm always like, what's the most riskiest, strange thing I can do?
Hey.
Let me do that.
That's-
That's what I've done.
Again, that warms my heart. You are blessed and highly favored. That is awesome. All right, another thing that moved me was the romantic pieces. In such, how can I say it? Frail but sparse lines. You capture so much of emotion and want and desire. And that is poetry. So those are powerful. So you got to give us a little romance tonight.
Okay, we'll do.
Gotta have it. I love that.
I love love. I love writing
Yes,
about love.
yes, and you
Yeah.
do it very well.
Thank you. I think that's why I became a poet. Like, I was 14 and I was like, I want to be in love. I want to be in love. Heartbreak, please.
No
Someone
shame,
can break
baby.
my heart, please.
Ain't no shame.
I always wanted to be that person
Hey.
so badly, and I wanted to figure out how that worked. And so I think that has been, I've been really fortunate to have very interesting relationships where there were things I could write about and things that I could, I had to bring to my writing. And so, I don't know, it's just been this very delightful journey.
Sweet. And also a few family things that are not typical. So, in your family, besides your mother, or is your mother the main inspiration in terms of your reading life?
Well, I grew up in a home, my dad's here.
Oh, hey, Dad.
I grew up in a home where I was always surrounded by books, and my mom was always reading. My dad was in the Navy, and I remember as a kid, instead of bedtime stories, like him reading us the dictionary. Like, he would read us like, okay, let's start with A, and we would go through the dictionary. And so I was always surrounded by words. I was always surrounded by language, in ways that I didn't know would help me, as I got older. And so I'm really thankful that I had that.
Oh.
I have parents who love literature, who love language, who love words, and it really has helped me, I think.
Oh, that is priceless. Okay, I'm a daddy's girl, so. And my dad's the reason why I research, because anything I didn't know, I had to look it up. And he read the dictionary.
Wow.
But after I learned to read, I had to read the dictionary, so we shared that.
Yes, indeed.
Good dads. Well, Skye, I want us to hear from you. So let's give her another round of applause. For all your accomplishments. and your beautiful work. And all we can say is, as we say in the neighborhood, tastes like more. So we'll give you time to do all the things that are coming up. Enjoy the journey, and then we're looking forward to whatever comes next, because we know that you have so much creativity in you that we just want you to be there for us and keep being you, because there's no two like you, and everything you've come up with is so moving, and it will last.
Thank you, Dr. Saloy.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you for being an inspiration to me.
Aww.
Yes.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Your journey and your light and the way that you move in the world has been a gift to me to be able to see that. And so I appreciate you so much for being here and for giving us your time. And I'm getting a little teary-eyed. Oh my gosh. I do appreciate
my
it
pleasure
so much.
and my honor.
To everyone who's here, I so appreciate y'all. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm full of feelings right now, y'all. I think I'll start with Can We Touch Your Hair? It's a Mardi Gras poem, and I love a Mardi Gras poem. Can we touch your hair? At the parades, everyone wants to touch my hair. On the corner of St. Charles and Marengo, I am cold and smashed and puffy AF. When two white women try to convince me that they love my hair, no, they really, really do, they say. Because it is so black and thick and curly and soaking up all of the water and the damp air. The mousy one says through an Alabama drawl, God, you can do so much with it. And her blonde friend says, you can't do a damn thing with mine, won't even hold a curl. She runs away to grab another friend and says to her, Stacy, isn't it even prettier than Macy Gray's? We just love her, don't we? Together, they circle me and ask, can we touch your hair? Then, suddenly, just like my ancestors long ago, I am pulled apart, soft, by pale hands from all directions. And that's Can We Touch Your Hair? A lot of these poems take place in New Orleans. They're situated in New Orleans. And so even though these experiences might be strange and sad, I'm grateful to be able to write about them. Such is the case with this poem, which is called Spoon Rest Mammies. I have to give thanks to Tori Derricott because she helped me with this poem a lot. And I am so grateful to her for her help. Spoon Rest Mammies. 1. On Tuesday at work, my manager, a brown Latina married to a black man, approaches me. With a smile, she sets something down in front of me and asks, what do you think about these? I look down at a porcelain spoon rest shaped into the swollen figure of a mammy. Her lips exaggerated and face dark like the trunk of a dead tree. The dress painted Jemima red, with a white apron tied chain taut around her waist. My heart races in its cage. After a second, I say, we shouldn't sell these. They are offensive. My manager purses her lips, sighs, and says, but they sell, my dear Skye. People buy them, too. At the end of my shift, a Latina woman with frizzy, bleached blonde hair stands in front of me. I'm from California, she says, just buying these for my kids as a joke. They're gonna be so mad I bought these. She hands me 2 of the mammy spoon rests and says, make sure you wrap them up good. I'd hate for them to break on the flight back home. So I protect them. In paper and bubble wrap, carefully place each one in a plastic bag. You know, the lady says, your store shouldn't carry these. I hand her the bag, smile and say, but they sell. 3 weeks later, my manager hands me a cardboard box.
I open it. To each spoon rest mammy huddled together. They smile up at me from the guts of the box. My manager says, I tried to donate them to Goodwill, but the guy accepting donations said, I won't sell these. But if you want, I can throw them in the dumpster out back. I'd be happy to do that. This next poem is called No Foul Play Suspected. I wrote it for, this was during the pandemic, or the very beginning of the pandemic. A young woman named Corey Gauthier, who was an LSU student, went missing. And so everyone was trying to find her, and it turned out that she had committed suicide. She jumped off of one of the bridges in Baton Rouge to her death. And so that story deeply affected me, and I wrote this poem for her, for Corey Gauthier. It begins with an epigraph by the poet Eugenia Lee. Everyone warns us off the rocks, but what will keep us from the river? You left your phone and purse open on the passenger seat in a new car on a bridge overlooking the Mississippi River. You did not take the keys out of the ignition. You left the car, an 18th birthday present from your parents still running. You rushed to your blind date with death as though it were the dental appointment scheduled in your Google Calendar for the next morning. There was no need for seduction. You were a sure thing, so. You stood on the cement lip of the bridge and cast yourself over the guardrail without a sound, like a fishing line gliding into the muddied water. Your headlights were still on as the tow truck arrived. No one, not even the tow truck driver, stopped to wonder why. Lights on, car running, phone and purse inside, engine still breathing though you were no longer. When he rigged your car to his truck without so much of a backward glance, he confirmed your haunting. No one cares. I imagine your ochre eyes, beautiful and sick with tired, anchored to the water below. Tell me this. If no one is around to hear the sound of a brown girl plunging like a dagger into a river, did she ever even fall at all? No foul play suspected is all that the papers will say. Out of respect for the family, the police chief refuses to speak on the topic any further. They will not call your death a suicide out of respect. The drowned girl, silenced twice. I ask myself, where do you run when nowhere, not even home, will suffice? I was like you once, saw the river as comfort, a dark crib to nurse my suffering. The water Stygian and full of possibilities, delicious silence. What if I had driven off the bridge as desire called me to, under the blurred veil of my tears? A wedding of brown water and browner skin. What I have beckoned to you from the river bottom on a jagged marital bed of rock. The current pushing our bodies together as the curve of the moon smiled down at the light of its own reflection on the water. And here is a love poem for Dr. Saloy. To comfort you. I want to whisper to you while you sleep. Catch you in that quiet world between starlight and dawn. With my hand on the crook of your arm, I'll come as close as I can get and ask you why in the museum today you saw your father in every black and white photograph, or as a phantom in paintings. Here in Paris, all you can think of, dream of, is mid-city and the art on your walls. How you hope the coming storm back in New Orleans won't claim them. Not your house, not your bike, not your books, but your art. In the Art Nouveau exhibit, I stand in an ornate mirror and say, I want one just like this. And you knot your scarred arm in mine and tell me that the only thing you'll inherit is a beautiful old looking glass, and there's no one you want to see reflected in it but me. So, here in the darkness, I butter my black body in coconut oil and wait for my eyes to adjust. When they do, I watch your body slip in and out of covers and dreams. I want to ask you as you sleep to just call the old man, even though you won't, even though you can't, because your dreams of him, watching you run through a field of dandelions when you were a boy, are all you need to comfort you. I don't know how much time I have. 10. Okay, awesome. I'll maybe read one more poem, perhaps?
Y'all start thinking of questions while she reads this. That's fine.
Okay, let's see. Oh, it's gotta be a good one. Let's see.
We're all good.
Just a touch louder.
I will read the title poem of the collection, Libre, for Melanie. And this is after Claudia Rankine. Libre. While in Key West for a writing residency, you meet a 73-year-old white man. You're sitting outside of a dive bar composing poems for strangers on a manual typewriter when he takes a picture of you without asking. He asks if he can send it to you on Facebook. You say, sure. A few days later, he sends you the picture and tells you it went viral in a Key West Facebook group that has not accepted you yet, although you applied for entry days ago. It will be any time now, he tells you. He asks if you are going to see the new editor of a premier literary magazine's craft talk and reading at the college outside of town. You have planned to go for weeks now, so you say yes. He asks if you need a ride there. You are hesitant, but you do need a ride. The campus is too far to reach on your bike. He says, if you want, you can go to the readings together and he will treat you to dinner. For some reason you can't pinpoint. You feel uneasy, but still say, okay. Days later, you both go to the craft talk. Everything seems fine. Afterwards, you and the old white man go meet the editor for dinner and drinks before his reading starts. There is not much time, only about an hour before he is scheduled to read his poetry on stage. You and the editor are the only two black people at the table of 5. You try to make the most of the time and fill the air with congratulations and small talk. The old white man speaks about affirmative action and how Key West was never part of the Confederacy. You wonder why he needs to speak of these things right now, in this moment. The editor leaves to prepare for his reading. All is well. The old white man pays the tab, and suddenly you are on the back of his scooter, passing by warm blue waves of water and an abandoned boat called Freedom, once manned by a group of Cubans escaping to America. The old white man breaks the silence. Wow, he says, that guy was so nice. You agree and tell him that he was just named the first black editor of a top-tier literary magazine. In their long history, they've never had a black editor. Oh, that's nice, the old white man says, but he's not black. You feel like you've been hit in the stomach as your long, thick twists whip around you in the breeze. Excuse me, you say, tightening your grip on his shoulders and steadying yourself on the scooter. What is that supposed to mean? Well, he says, clearing his throat and speaking as casually as though he were commenting on the weather. His diction is very good, and he seems quite worldly. You don't even know where to begin with this. So you say, he grew up in the Netherlands with a pit deepening in your stomach. You tell this white man that the editor has lived all over the world. Nice, the old white man says again. You are lost in your thoughts when you realize He is turning the scooter around. You are no longer headed to the reading. Now you are going to some other place. You feel like the blonde teenager in that Joyce Carol Oates story. Don't know where you're going, don't know where you've been. He stops the scooter by the boat you passed minutes ago, the one with freedom scrawled in white on the side. The sun is setting into the water. It is getting dark. You wonder why you cannot speak. I'd like to take a picture of you next to the boat, he says, motioning towards it. You can't swallow, but you hand him your phone. You stand next to the boat called Freedom, the wooden pieces of the hull jutting out into the soft sand. He takes the picture. He takes several pictures. You do not smile. You are holding back something inside you. You want to say things, but you cannot say things. Suddenly, you are back on the scooter, though you do not remember climbing on it. The old white man takes a deep, long breath. He tells you that he loves your perfume, that you smell so good. In your head, you say, it's called Libre. To him, you say, nothing.
Questions going once? Going twice? There we go.
I've got a question.
John Norris.
So you've been working with young poets as an educator. What do you do to encourage them in their writing? Because the world right now is a lot.
Yes.
And it can be a lot to find the time to make a space, both mentally and otherwise, to write.
Yes. I think with young students, what I really think is important is to listen to them. And so I remember the day after the election, I walked into the classroom and I wasn't sure what to say. And I had been saying, if you do the right thing and you get good grades and you do all the right things, society will reward you, right? And it's really hard to look at a group of 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds and tell them that after something like that happens, right? And so what I did was, I kind of said, hey, does anybody want to speak to this? Does anybody want to talk about it? And so that's something that I'm always doing in my classes. I want to hear from students, and I want them to know that their voices are relevant, that they're important, no matter what anyone says or how anyone might try to defeat them or what they're trying to do or what they're trying to accomplish, that their voices are important. And I sort of think of that as my primary role as an educator, is to let students know that their voices are important and that they matter, and that there's still hope and joy in the world despite that. But I think for me, it's most important to listen to students. Yes, Daniel?
I've actually always said that lawyers and poets have a commonality in terms of precision of language. Has there been unexpected ways in which you're training as a lawyer and the way you think? Because being a lawyer is really about kind of way of thinking, right? Has that in any way unexpectedly kind of led into how you think as a poet?
Ooh, I don't know if it's bled in the way that I think as a poet, but I definitely think it, I can get very fixated on something that I'm doing, but in the law you have to be super precise. One word can mean the difference between, a horrible situation, right? And so I think that I take that in my process as a poet and as a writer, just trying to focus, trying to be precise, trying to find the right word for this situation or scenario. And sometimes it drives you nuts. You're like, this is not the right word, but what is it? And so I think it has informed me in that way. It's forced me to really be more dedicated. I think in terms of the way that I approach my literary career, I've treated it the same way I treated being in law school, which was like, I'm on top of this. I'm trying to make things happen all the time.
And so I think that experience really helped me to be able to move more confidently in the literary world, because there's discouragement, and at every turn there's rejection at every turn. That's just the nature of being a writer, and so being able to sort of look past that, I think, has been one of the strengths that I've gathered from my legal career and brought into my poetry career. So determination, tenacity, not taking no for an answer, just kind of just holding the line always, I think is important, and not giving up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that question. Yes, Ricky.
In another vein, I'm curious how you handle disappointments or doubts at all. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have super confidence, but if you're human, how do you handle the other side?
Oh, I always have to give myself 24 hours to just vent about it and rage about it and just be upset, and then I'm like, okay, just let me sleep on it. And then the next day I'm like, okay, that's normal. You can't get everything. You can't win everything. You can't get published everywhere. It's just, if you keep thinking about that, you'll never do anything. I have to sort of walk in a way that allows me to keep on moving in the world. And so I try to hug those feelings of disappointment, but eventually let go of the hug, And so that's sort of how I try to manage disappointment, and also just tell myself, okay, well, maybe I just needed some redirection here. Okay, rejection is redirection, people say, right? And so that helps me too, to know that maybe, what's meant for me will find me, or I'll find it. I just kind of have to get there. And sometimes, those disappointments, those rejections happen, and you just kind of, I am fully one of those people who will complain and vent to my friends for at least a day about something, and I'm like, okay, I'm letting it go now. Letting it go, it's fine. So giving yourself the space to feel and the space to be affected by that, but then not internalizing it. Just saying, all right, it happened. We have to move on. Tomorrow's another day, and I have to face that, And so that's sort of the way that I've approached the disappointments in my life. Thank you for that question. Yes, Valentine.
I have a question about your work changing. I think with most writers, over the course of time, the work changes. The words change, what you're keying in on changes. Have you started to see any of that yet?
Yes, definitely. A lot of the poems that I've been working on after Libre are very different than the poems that are in this book. And of course, I started writing this book in 2016, I think, maybe a little bit before that. So my voice has just been sort of shifting throughout that time. So it's interesting to look back at these poems, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't even sound like this anymore, And there's a fear there, but also an excitement there too. But yeah, because you never know how people are going to receive it, because they're so used to you doing one sort of thing. And so I guess that's part of the fear for me, but it's also exciting because I feel like, okay, well, I'm growing, I'm evolving. There's some evolution happening, and I appreciate that and welcome that. I wouldn't want to sound the same way for my entire literary career. At least I would hope not to. I would hope to be able to do different things and sound different and talk about different subjects and, evolve as best as I can. So, it's exciting but scary. Definitely.
In the back, we got one last one.
Yeah, and I just wanted to dig into that a little bit more. Reading some of your poems and hearing you, there's some vignettes that seem as though they could be, they could definitely be dialogue. And yeah, I'm sort of curious, and also thematically, a lot of them seem like you're exploring sort of similar themes. And I'm wondering, like, where is that going? Like, are you going more abstract, more, sort of like longer form, or different themes?
You know what? I think about abstract poetry all the time, and I want to do that. But then a part of me doesn't want to do that either. I love to write poetry that people can see themselves reflected in. And so I think abstract poetry has its place. And there's many of those poems that I admire. I struggled. Sometimes I need to figure out a window into something. Like I need to have a good window to do something, because you want to do it well. And so I haven't quite found my window into the abstract poetry yet, but I'm open to it. You know, the poems that I've been writing about lately have been sort of a little bit more political. You know, things with Trump and things that I haven't normally focused on. And that could just because we are just so bombarded with things every day about this man and what he is doing every day. And so I found that I'm writing a lot of politically charged poems now. I don't know if that will be something that's maintained or if it will shift. So I guess we will continue to see what happens. So stay tuned.
You said it was going to be one more, but Steve's begging over there. So go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Skye, for those readings. It's interesting because when you look at your poems or any poem, first of all, you don't know that there's no capitalization or ampersand. And most of us don't get a chance to hear poems read. So do you think about that when you write them?
Oh, definitely. I always want to deliver a poem in the same vein or the same breath that I wrote it in. And so for me, poetry is kind of like a house. And I'm stepping in these poems are the different rooms in the house. And so some of those rooms are cold and they're dark and they're scary. And I just kind of I transport myself back to that room when I'm reading the poem because that's how I wrote the poem. And I want that to be communicated to the reader or to the audience. So yeah, and I wanted to challenge myself to write poetry without punctuation, you know, because it's challenging to do it and have it still be understood. And so, yeah, I guess I'm sort of issuing myself challenges all the time and then trying to defeat my own challenges. But yeah, so it just,
Cool,
but that's sort of the way I think about the delivery of the poems is how did I conceive of this? How did I feel when I wrote this? What is the underlying emotion here that I'm trying to convey? And then I try to sort of deliver it in that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
I'll give it over, Skye.